My thought was, I felt like, are you aware that Clayton's gonna be the next Bachelor?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So I felt like this was obviously the
Setup
beginning.
episode.
What'd you say?
This was his setup episode.
It was his setup.
His storyline, his everything.
Barely, just scraps being pulled together. I knew this was the beginning of his edit because the thing with the fort, at first I was like, this feels like genuine. Like he could have really thought to build a fort. Like, okay, that's fine. But like after that, it just kind of I was bored already after that.
Yeah, I think that like Clayton is an interesting character. You know that he has a good heart. You know that like he was there for Michelle for the right reasons, but he did take a long time to open up.
Yeah.
And you don't have that many weeks. You don't have that much time. And so he was lucky that the kids chose him
Yeah.
because like Olu, the kids didn't choose him
Right.
and he didn't get a date. So
Yeah. Although I don't think that would have changed anything for Olu necessarily because it's kind of like too little too late.
I guess it's too little too late. But I feel like sometimes when you see the edits on the clips at the end, you see like they had more interactions than what were shown on camera.
That's true. Yeah. I think she did have a good connection with Olu. I just think like the other ones are further along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. Like I don't know how like yeah. I feel like what I feel like I don't want to skip to the end, but or to the middle, but like at the same time, I feel like her decision would have been harder if Martin was replaced with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah.
like like we just wasted a spot with Martin. Like we really did.
Yeah, Martin was easy to eliminate, and he was one of the people that had a one-on-one. So she kind of like got to know him more than like if Olu had Martin's one-on-one, that would have been more difficult for her, I think.
Yeah, for
That's a
sure.
good point. Yeah. Okay, so moving along from that, Clayton, like we said, obviously ends up getting the one-on-one. They go to a museum after hours. It looked like Natural History Museum. They're running around playing tag, looking at the exhibits, and then there's like paper butterflies with would you rather questions.
Impressed. That's not a cute date.
It was cute. It was just like very like here we are at the next step. Like it was just very like it seemed spontaneous, but it was so like okay, the producers are walking us through what they want them to do. Um, so what were your thoughts on just like the activity portion before they got to like the dinner?
I thought that the hide and go seek thing was weird. I mean, I love Night at the Museum, but after Night at the Museum,
It's too real.
yeah, it's real creepy. And then like one of the cuts, they showed a live turtle, and I was like, so they're real animals.
Yeah, I picked up on that. I was like, oh, I thought these were all like statues.
I stopped.
I was like, so no one's watching these live animals overnight? Like they're just here?
Yeah, I was like, wait, there are real animals. And then I got really scared.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was the first thing. I was like, okay, so we're playing tag in this museum. I guess it's kind of cute, but like, whatever. And then the bird exhibit was interesting. Like, I thought it was like Dance Dance Revolution. So I was like, okay, we have some arcade theme exhibit activities.
Yeah.
The mating dance. Like, did the kids make this up? Because I don't think the kids put this on the agenda. I don't think the kids like the kids were asking questions about did you kiss, not mate. I'm pretty sure they didn't have the birds and bees talk yet. But yeah, I was like, the mating dance, come on. And he was like, oh, he can dance. And I was like,
I
okay.
was like, I'll be sure.
So I actually thought the butterfly activity was cute. I thought it allowed them to get closer. I feel like out of a lot of the men there, in terms of like touching her, I felt like he was very respectful in the way in which he touched her. I
Yeah.
feel like he never like went for the kisses in the dates and stuff. Like he was always just like shy, and not shy in a bad way, just like I thought his presence and everything was like more respectful. Not the same that the other men weren't,
I know what
but
you're
like
saying. Yeah.
it was more like a courting type of feel, but you can't really like court her around like 10 other women. So I mean
Right.
men. So it felt as though he was courting her, but in this time when they were catching the butterflies, I was just like, wow, they're getting a little bit more intimate in a way in which I hadn't seen before. And
Yeah. Yeah.
like shoulders and like he was like picking her up. I was like, okay, she feels safe. Like
Yeah.
I felt like safety was a huge thing for her, and like the ability for her to like just like allow him to like have her body hoisted in the air was
Wasted.
uh,
Yeah.
made her feel safer than she thought and closer to him. But I didn't think they had in-depth conversation throughout the date. I felt like the date was very activity orientated, and I feel like there were missed opportunities for like more incorporation of conversation. And
Hmm.
I thought the butterfly questions were also very basic.
Yeah.
Like that could have been a moment for them to ask like hard hitting questions that she didn't have
Right.
to ask, but like they didn't. So I was just like, interesting. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I did pick up on that, what you're saying about like the physical touch that they were having. I did very much so pick up on that because I was like you were saying, whenever they had their like one-on-one chit chats during the group dates, like leading up to this, they never really had the like physical element. So I didn't know what to expect going into their one-on-one, how like close they would be. But I was glad to see that apparently they had gotten somewhere to where she does feel like comfortable around him. Um, and then the butterfly questions, I also was unmoved. I felt like it was a little forced. Like some of the questions were like, "Oh yeah, what's your favorite holiday?" Like whatever. But then one of them, she was like,
what's your favorite holiday thing? I was just like, my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving as well. But he was like, because I like to eat. I'm like, bro, this is your opportunity to expand.
he said food.
I said, you're not going to bring up a tradition. You're not going to bring up your family. You're not going to bring up like, grab onto something and make it last. Like, food. Be a football player. Why don't you?
Yeah, but I felt like in other moments he did like, yeah, he didn't go that deep in, but then I felt like in other moments he did, but it was like weird. Like the question where they asked like what's your superpower or whatever, and he was like, oh, I could fly, and she was like, oh, I would want to be like healing or whatever, and he was like, that is so deep. I admire you so much. Like he spoke for like 30 seconds and he honestly felt like a fan. Like he felt like he was someone who was like meeting her off the street, like who saw her on the Bachelorette instead of being someone who was like her equal in the scenario and like has been getting to know her for like all these weeks.
But I think that's what she saw in him as well.
A
I don't,
fan.
not a fan, but someone who wasn't like truly comfortable in themselves.
Mm.
And like, even in his responses, like he was like, I would fly. Like, fly for what? Like, fly to do what? Like, she was,
Yeah.
she like, in all of her responses, she was just like, I would heal because like I want to help people. You
Right.
know?
Like had a reason.
Yeah, a reason. Like he's like, I want to fly, but like you could say like I let him fly because like I like to travel and I don't want to pay for like airplane tickets
Yeah, yeah.
for the world. And that would have been a lot more deeper and
Right.
more depth than like I just want to be solo in the air.
It
Like
was very surface level. And I felt like he picked up on that. Once she gave her responses, he was like, oh, this is the level of depth.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what do you think a one-on-one is for?
Right. Yeah. So they have all these interactions and then they go to the dinner portion. Clayton opens up about how he struggled in the past with like determining what he wants out of life. He thought he would chase his career and like kind of put that over his life and like didn't really make time to date. But he says now he's all good. He's the most vulnerable he's ever been and he knows what he wants out of life. Thoughts on the dinner portion?
Okay, so I feel like this is like the first dinner in this episode where, or this, I said episode, this season, whatever, where I didn't feel like they didn't really touch their food much. So I was like,
They
I
never eat. Sometimes they'll do a toast, but they never eat.
really, I don't
Yeah.
know. It was like very I was very aware of the fact that like no one touched their food at this point. I was like, oh, so this is awkward. Or maybe like share a slice of cake or something. Like I feel like this is I knew this was going downhill.
Yeah.
And like when he started sharing his responses about like not feeling like he was enough and like being like 80% of the way there to like him opening himself up, and then he was just like, you were in my shoes, like were you always this confident? And she was like, yeah. Just like, were you always this confident? Yes. Like, I'm a Black woman living in a white world. Wake up.
She said, I knew what I wanted and I came to get it. The end.
And I think that also was like a flag for her, even though like she wouldn't say it, that like he's all the way to the stage and he is not sure if he's confident in this.
Yeah.
Like, he knows that he wants to be with someone, but does he want to be with her? Like, he's just now having this realization that like he's open to love, he's open to like bringing someone into his life, he's at this point where he's okay with his career, but like, is it her that he wants, or he just wants a relationship that's guaranteed and successful? And I feel like that's where he is, and like him being the next Bachelor will allow him to explore that a little bit more. But I'm also so hesitant with this like franchise for picking men who aren't ready to be married. Like, let's talk about it. Picking men who aren't ready to be in relationships. You should not be a Bachelor if you're just like, I'm finally figuring out what love is. No, you should have been through.
That's called dating. That's like, you're ready to date. This ends in an engagement.
Put a ring on someone's finger. Like, don't be playing with people's hearts and minds and emotions, and you haven't said I love you yet to someone.
That you have men that come on the show, just even contestants who are like, I've never been in love. I've never had a serious relationship. What? Yeah, you're in your mid-20s. What's like going on?
That should be a question on the application. I actually put the application up recently. I wanted to see what they were asking these people.
What did they ask? Did they ask anything about past relationships?
Yeah, well, I don't think they asked anything about past relationships, but there was like a portion that was just like, you can't be in a current serious relationship. Like, you can't be living with someone.
That's not enough. That's not enough.
You can't be like, you couldn't have been seriously dating someone like 2 months prior to the show or something. Like, it was like, they're making sure that you're not attached to someone.
Right,
but it wasn't just like, have you been in love? They asked for your IG and your TikTok, but like, I'm like, they updated this shit to say Sorry. They updated this to say TikTok, but then I gotta ask about love and stuff. Like, I don't know. They're not doing this right, because the fact of the matter is, he's a nice guy. Is he ready to be Bachelor? We'll see. No. But like, I'm not sure and I'm not certain. He's ready to find love. He's ready to be loved.
Yeah.
But I think that when you're searching for love, when you're searching for love and you haven't found it yet, or you haven't seen it in a long time, you get all caught up in the emotions, and like, you're not thinking clearly about like, is this someone I want? Or like, am I just chasing after them for the emotion? Or am I just chasing because like, I want them to fill a void in my life? And I feel like he has a void that he's trying to fill with someone, and a good person. So he's seeking out a good person, but that good person might not be his match.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how his season plays out, and just like who he will be with at the end. But I'm glad Michelle didn't pick him, because she's looking for something serious.
Yeah.
He's not ready to be serious.
Right.
She's looking for someone to propose to her. Like, he's not ready to propose. Like, he would propose because he knows that's what he should be doing.
Well, he might not.
Or he might not.
We've had Matt James did not propose. We've had another Bachelor who did not propose.
Matt James was also a person who had never said I love you. So like, why would he be a Bachelor? Like,
exactly. So it's just, we're in the same pattern of guys who are just not prepared. And I feel like, going off of what you said about like not knowing what to look for, like if you haven't been in love, like not knowing what to look for, I feel like that's such a huge like hindrance in this process, because it's so expedited. So if you haven't like been in love before, you don't know really what characteristics you need out of a partner, and it's going to be harder for you to identify those. It's hard to identify those just in dating, like in the real world when there's no stakes at all. But it's even harder when you're like in an expedited process. You have to make a decision in 10 weeks with all these cameras in your face, you know? So I feel like he doesn't have that experience to prepare him to like make that decision. And that's like, that's not interesting. Like, I'm so tired of watching these seasons where like they don't pick the person that's like who I would think is their best match, but they pick the person who like they have the most sexual chemistry with or who's the most attractive or whatever. And then they break up 6 months later. Like, that's not interesting.
Yeah. And then at the same time, I think that I forgot what I was gonna say. At the same time, like Michelle is so ready for this. Like she is so ready. So I was annoyed by Matt's season. I watched it annoyed. Like
same, yeah.
But like when she came into those one-on-ones and she talks about her past relationship and how like that literally like ate her alive, like physically, like depreciated her, like she had to move back in with her family, like how that relationship was toxic and like she had to go to the doctor for it. That's deep.
Yeah.
And Clayton hadn't experienced any of that.
Right.
A lot of the guys haven't experienced it. So like when she's opening up about this relationship, it's like, I've gone through hell. I've gone through a dark time. And he was like, yeah, I went through a dark time. And it's like, no. She expressed what her dark time was a couple episodes ago. Right. I need you to express your dark time because I'm not trying to compare darkness and emotions. But sis was sick.
Right.
Like
even his opening up was like not like I felt like they just spoke in like cliches. He was like, oh yeah, I'm on this self-love journey. Like, what does that look like for you? What does that mean? What insecurities are you working through? Like, it just felt like a bunch of like fluff. And he's like, I wanted an MBA. Like, he just said all these things when there was no conclusion. Like, he started a bunch of like, I wanted this out of my career. I wanted that out of a relationship. And then he was just like, now I'm ready. Like, there was no conclusion. We didn't learn what he worked through and what the final product is.
No, I was not impressed. He didn't have any depth, and like it annoyed me because like she had given so much of herself and like opened that up that I'm just like, you could have said anything. You could have said like, you know, she's a teacher, you know, she's dealt with childhood trauma, you know, like she's a Black woman and you're a white man. Like you have a lot of topics to broach if you want to be her husband.
Right.
Like, so figure it out, pick a topic and decide, because like you need to make an impression that she feels like she could carry you to hometown.
Yeah. And that's going to be even more boring on his season because the lead honestly can just coast. Like, it's up to the contestants really to open up. So like, we don't know anything about him leaving this season now. And I doubt we'll learn much about him on his own season. And that's so boring.
It's upsetting. And like, he's a good face. He's an attractive man. Like, he's what the people want. They had a little bit too much Blackness.
Yeah. They said, you're done.
You're done. Wait, but like, can we talk about how the kids, like, go back to the kids and how the kids said that Olu made them feel like warm, hot chocolate in their heart?
I was like, how did you not pick him for the dates? Like,
oh, wait. I said, wait, we need to go back and touch on that real quick because I said, wow, these kids, they're so cute.
And so perceptive. Like, Olu is so, that's who I really want as Bachelor. Speeding forward, this is a point I had at the end, but since we're on the topic of Olu now, that's who I really want as Bachelor over Clayton.
They couldn't do two Black men.
Oh, they would never.
The people are already talking about Michelle, like, because now they had Katie and Michelle. But it's like, Michelle didn't want to film during the school year for her kids, so like they had to pick a fill-in, and that was Katie.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they couldn't do Olu again.
Oh, never. That will never happen.
It wouldn't.
Yeah.
But he is a kind soul. He really is trustworthy, and so like and he was perceptive.
Yeah, he really was, which we will get into. But before that, we have one last final scene of Mr. Clayton. So the next day, this has never happened. What'd you say?
With the kids.
Yeah, with the kids. We never see a follow-up. Like they usually just leave and we don't see them again. But they gotta push this Bachelor edit. So the next day, Clayton's saying goodbye to two of the kids. They give him letters that they wrote about how he would make a good dad. They hope he finds love. And then also just like piecing in the last blooper from like the very end of the episode when the one kid was like, I want him to find love. I think he'll be the next Bachelor. So thoughts. Oh, and also like after he reads these letters, he's in the hallway trying to push some tears out of his tear ducts.
So I'm not gonna lie, I pushed some tears out of my tear ducts.
No.
The kids got me.
No.
Got me. Nah, they did, because like I try to view it from his perspective. Like he's leaving the show. He's someone who was a football player. He's someone who's like achieving is something that he does. So like this is a failure for him.
Yeah.
Like he got his MBA. He was a football player, so that means he won games. Like he's made it to be like successful, or like what he deems a success, so much so that he had his head down. And so I'm like thinking like, okay, like this, him like not being the bachelor, like not being the bachelorette's choice is like him failing. And him feeling like he took the steps to open up. And I was like, this is a moment for him. And like this is reflection. And it's probably reflection that like he hasn't done in a while, so recently after something has happened. Yeah. I feel like he's probably one of those men that lets things fester and then thinks about it like later down the road. But like the kids are just like, you got broken up with yesterday. Back at it, like we gotta say goodbye, and here are our letters, and like we're sorry that you got broken up with. Like hit him again. Like don't be sad. Don't be sad. Sad. It's like my man is sad. But like, so I thought that was cute. I thought it was genuine, and so those are the reasons why like I feel like I teared up. But like, also it was meant for him to go home, because like when he said afterwards, like I really want a family. I'm like, did you not know that before this letter? Like, like he was like, I really want to be a dad. Like, did you not think about that before this letter? Does these kids make you want to be a dad? Because these kids weren't babies. And I'm not saying you have genuine connections with them, but like you also didn't see these kids pop out of a womb and have some like amazing experience. Like, I'm not saying the kids weren't amazing, but like I'm just saying that like he acted like he saw like some coming of age story of these kids, or like
maybe he did, I don't know.
He was like, these kids make me want to be a dad. And I'm like, so this was one day and probably for a couple of hours. And like they probably had to refilm some of these shoots.
And that's exactly why I personally was unmoved. We had the most opposite reactions possible watching this. Like I was sitting there stone faced. Like I was like, okay. I was like, here we go. Like just the letters. Okay, to start with the letters, I cannot imagine at that age being that pressed about a grown man's love life to the point where I would be moved to write him a letter about, I hope you find a wife. You'd be like, I wouldn't do that at any age, where I would be so moved about someone I met once to be like,
these kids opted in to be on this show. And their parents also opted them in to be on this show.
That's true. That's true.
So there's no doubt in my mind that the parents also helped them write this letter too. Like,
oh, absolutely. Which is why, again, I was unmoved, because I was like, this is so, an
Pixar film. So like for me, like I'm moved just by like sheer like, oh my God, Woody like got left. Crying. Toy Story.
I guess I'm just heartless. I did not buy it whatsoever. When he was crying, I didn't buy it. I was literally trying to zoom in, like, are there any tears on his face? Like, it didn't do it for me.
He was really crying. I'm not saying that we shouldn't give him emotion. Like, I was there with him. I was empathizing.
I'm glad someone was. I'm glad he had someone on his side.
I was empathizing, but also definitely a setup for The Bachelor.
Oh yeah.
The kid saying, I hope he's the next Bachelor. I'm like,
eye roll.
Did you see that much? Like, we're rewatching the same episode. Like, I thought it was cute that they wrote a letter, like they made a friend in a day. Like, I thought that was realistic that they made a letter. Kids like make friends in one day in the schoolyard and they write a letter like, oh my God, like I thought we were gonna see you again, but I guess not. Like, I feel like that was normal.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like he's not. And they're like, oh, I wish you had kids. And I'm like, that was a stretch. But like,
Exactly.
You're gonna be a great dad. Like, when I was watching in the moment, I was like, wow, this is precious. Like, this is really precious. This is what he needed. And I'm glad the kids gave him what he needed, because I feel like when Michelle kept saying to him, you're enough, you're enough, you're enough, like, I don't think that he was able to internalize that in the same way in which hearing it from
yeah. Because also it's coming from someone who is breaking up with him. If someone broke up with me and they said, oh, by the way, you're still enough. It's like, well, clearly you don't think so, or else you wouldn't be breaking up with me. So